Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is leading the Democratic effort to save Obamacare. He is on Capitol Hill and joins us this morning. Senator, very good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Listen, we'll get your thoughts on what the president had to say about health care in just a second, but I'd like to start with this. Donald Trump is getting rave reviews today for that speech on tone, delivery, and content. Did you hear anything that you liked in the speech?
Well, you see, with Donald Trump, the speeches don't mean very much because what he says in his campaign at the inauguration last night aren't attached to reality, to his own reality. His speeches are populist. They're aimed at the working folks who supported him. But his governing and what he does is hard right, favoring special interests over the working class. So let me give you a few quick examples. He talked last night about infrastructure. We Democrats offered a plan a month ago. We haven't heard a peep out of him. He said he was going to be tough on trade. His great opportunity on trade was to label China a currency manipulator. He said in the campaign 10 times, I'm going to do it on day one. He's backed off. He talked about education, touchingly about the need for medical research. His budget is slashing those to smithereens. And maybe most of all, he said he'd clean up the swamp. Well, his cabinet is a swamp cabinet filled with millionaires, billionaires, people whose views are inimical to working people.
But he did say, Senator, now is time for Democrats and Republicans to unite. Does that put pressure on your party?
Actions speak louder than words. He has not done anything to unite. He's not calling us and saying, what do you think? He's not making his proposals down the middle. He's making them the hard right, favoring special interests. You know, an hour after he gave his inaugural speech, he signed an executive order that helped the banks and raised the cost of mortgages over $500 for new homeowners. That's what's going on here, and that's why he's had such trouble his first 40 days and why he's going to keep having that kind of trouble.
Senator, you mentioned the infrastructure proposal from the Democrats. President Trump called for a $1 trillion infrastructure rebuilding program last night. Do you think there's any ground here with which you can work with the Republicans on?
Well, he called for public-private partnerships there. If that means tax breaks, what he's talked about, or some of his advisors anyway, is that 82 cents on the dollar would go to financiers, which means that very little is left for building roads, and it would require tolls to pay back these lenders, these private lenders, all over the country. So that we can't work with that.
For the first time, he seemed to give specifics about Obamacare and his health care proposals. What did you make of that?
I thought that the Republican leaders in their hearts were hoping he was going to lay out a path. He hasn't. Their party is divided on Obamacare. I thought Governor Beshear gave a great defense of it. Their party, they don't know what to do. Are they going to give more money to the states that have increased Medicaid? Some of the Republicans want that. But then the hard right says, you put any money in here, I won't do it.
Senator, there were audible groans in the room last night when the president called for the creation of a new office called Voice, Victims of Immigration Crime Engagement. What do you think of that new office?
I think that office is ridiculous. Obviously, we want to go after all criminals. The overwhelming majority of immigrants are law-abiding. They want to be part of the American dream, and most Americans agree with that. So to put an office like this out there shows how anti-immigrant this president is. Of course we want to go after the criminals. We want to go after all criminals, no matter who they are.
Senator, the president started his speech by condemning recent threats against Jewish community centers, slightly at odds with his position earlier in the day. Did that satisfy you?
I'm glad he said it. No problem there. But he's got to do it regularly and when it happens, not just in one speech once a month.
All right, Senator Schumer. Got to start somewhere.
To talk to you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I know. Let him start.
Let's go back
really
to
doing something.
Thank you, sir.